Welcome to the Calm Cockpit, where pilots of all levels can find high-performance tools, actionable strategies, and access to professionals who can help you fly smarter and stress less.
In aviation, we train stick and rudder, crew resource management, and our decision-making. But we often overlook one of the most powerful tools that we have, the mind itself.
And that's where meditation comes in. It's not about tuning out the world, it's about tuning in. Just a few minutes a day can sharpen focus, calm the nervous system, and bring clarity when it matters most.
Whether you're managing turbulence in the air or distractions on the ground, meditation helps you stay centered, present, and in command.
So settle in, take a slow breath, and join us as we explore how the practice of meditation can elevate your peace of mind and enhance your performance. The Calm Cockpit podcast starts now.
Onyx 1-2 Mike Oscar, runway 27, clear for takeoff.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode. I'm Geeta Brown, midlife student pilot and licensed yoga and meditation educator with over 30 years of experience teaching high performers how to improve their lives without adding stress.
And I'm John Niehaus, professional pilot and flight instructor.
And today, you're a meditation student. Dun, 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 dun. Have you ever meditated before? Have we talked about this? I think you did once, right?
Yeah, I mean, maybe we have. I have done some mindfulness meditations before. I got in a really good habit for a while using the Calm app.
Oh, cool.
And every now and again I go back to it, but I am guilty of the start and stop. Do it for a week and then forget about it for 3 months and try it again. So I need to get better at just kind of trying to take time for it.
I'm curious, do you know why you start and stop? Like, do you tend to start like when you're stressed? Or is it when you're feeling chill and you're like digging it? You know what I mean? Like, what's the motivation to start it usually?
Stress is probably the big one. I'd say it's more of a treat the symptom type of thing for me.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, I'm really good when I'm traveling. So if I'm on a trip for work or something from a hotel room, like that triggers the like, oh, I should do this. It's when I get home and there's a million things to do that it just isn't prioritized.
Totally. You're right on track with like the metrics of it. I think they've done some recent research of why most people take up a yoga practice itself, and stress was like the number one reason why people want this. You know, it's not enlightenment or some greater cosmic consciousness awareness. It's I am freaking stressed out and I need something to help me, and I've heard this can work. So you are not alone. And that's one thing we'll get into today. Like, what are those stumbling blocks to like maintaining a practice? Everybody has them. It's actually part of the practice. Falling off the path is the path. So today's episode is really a topic I love. So I'm going to kind of do a quasi deep dive. Oh, I'll be honest, it's a deep dive into meditation. And just so you folks know kind of how the episode is going to follow is just to chat initially a bit about like why should we even care about meditation? What's just a tiny bit of the history, like just a few sentences on the history of it to kind of put it in context. But why, especially us as aviators, like why do we care about this? What is it going to give us? And then I'm going to really dive into this sort of idea of active state meditation and talking about how we can use that as pilots to really enhance performance. Today's really about sort of de-stressing, yes, but it's really more of a meditation practice to enhance performance. Get more into that in a minute. And then, yeah, we're going to cover those stumbling blocks. Like you said, John, I start, I stop, I do it for a week, and then I forget all about it. And I'll give you some examples of some really famous people who've managed to do it over a course of a lifetime and what their experience has been. And then I'll give you kind of the greatest hits that I teach all my students of how to set up for success. Because we all know it's tricky and can be hard to sustain. So what are the things that we can do to set it up from day one where we're really clear about how we're going to do it? It makes it so much easier to keep going over the long haul. And I'll lead you through just a basic general script and kind of break down the anatomy of a meditation so you know for yourself like how and why each piece of so many of these meditations you find even on the apps follow the kind of the same script. And once you know why those pieces are there, I find it more motivating to do. And it also gives you then that knowledge of like what you might want to focus on a little more in your own personal meditation. And of course, I'm going to lead a meditation at the end, which will be interesting after all the thinking part of our brain is like super activated. Then we're going to drop in. What do you think, John? I'm going to put you in the hot seat for a moment. Play the role of my student. Normally this lecture would roll out over probably 10 weeks. And the way I would do it is we'd do like a 15-minute discussion and I'd present a topic and we'd meditate for 15 minutes and we'd meet like twice a week in that way for half an hour and we'd do it over the course of time. I'm going to give it all to you in one shot today, but like, why do you as a pilot or as a human being go to that meditation when you're in where'd you say you were, the hotels?
Yeah, I mean, I think it started back during kind of initial training long ago when again, not to repeat a story I've told multiple times, but it was just during that period where I was looking for something to just kind of bring that stress level down.
Yeah.
And so I started doing it and admittedly it helped. It did. And I think not only was it just something that forced me to slow down and get control of my internal breathing and stuff like that. It was also that like pursuit of maybe this will make me better. Maybe by doing this, my actions will be more purposeful and the way that I interact with the airplane will be better. And I'd say to an extent that's true. But again, it was one of those things where you get out of training or you get out of some of the more stressful situations and life comes back and you're like, okay, well, that was fun. And I really should keep this up. But boy, 10 minutes during the day seems like a lot of work. I think on the other hand, there was also a little bit of these expectations that it was going to revolutionize your life. Like, oh, everything's going to be different and I'm going to have all of this noticeable change. And maybe that happens and I didn't do it long enough to see it.
Yeah.
But it was just kind of that, I don't want to say like let down, but searching for this profound change that I don't know if it happened or not, or maybe I just didn't even notice.
Right. You were looking for like the holy grail of meditation, like 10 minutes a day for 3 weeks and like suddenly everything is awesome.
Right. There's no like magic bullet that after 3 days is just, everything's perfect.
There's this great quote. I believe it's in the Zen Buddhist tradition. And they say, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. Which is to say that when you're a meditator and you sit there day after day, you recognize the patterns of the mind. They just keep going. They just keep going. They just keep going. Another way to say it, a little off color, is same shit, different day. Like it's just the same stuff over and over again. And that is one of the quote unquote magical things about meditation is if you do it long enough, and I'm talking in terms of years, you start to see that that is just a pattern of the mind and you start to release your attachment to needing that pattern to change. And that's when the magic occurs. But it's a subtle thing. We'll get into it a little bit more later, but it takes some practice of just observing your mind doing the same thing over and over and over again before you release the need for the mind to do anything differently. And that's when you're really getting into those deeper states of neuroplasticity. Does that make sense at all? Or did I just go way off into the deep end too quick?
I mean, it makes sense, but what if I just want it now? A year's a long time.
Come on, you're a pilot. You know what it means to train for a long time. But it's so interesting to hear you talk about you were looking for that edge of performance because that's how I got started too in high school. I started meditating as a junior. I was at Interlochen Center for the Arts. So I was in high school to become a musician and it felt high pressure to me. Certainly I put a lot of pressure on myself, to then get into a good conservatory and do all the things and, practicing 4 hours a day and rehearsals and classes and all the normal high school angst too, being a 16-year-old. So I started meditating with, back in the day, it was audio tapes, cassette tapes, right? Like that's what we had. There was no app. I had to go to the New Age store with the crystals and the rocks and buy the cassette tape. But I started doing it. And to me, that was what yoga was. Yoga was meditation and breathing. Years later, I found out that there's these poses involved, but really at its heart, yoga is quite a bit about meditation. But I noticed on those days, similar to you, I'm playing my clarinet with a little more ease. My friendships seem to be a little more gentle, my reactions are a little bit better. And I got hooked though, because I loved how it felt. So then I've been meditating since then and have not stopped. But why do we care as pilots? Especially what we're talking about today, we're talking about meditation that helps us with this element of focus, being able to direct your perception and understanding the mechanisms of your own mind, how your consciousness works, means that you have more neuroplasticity to direct your mind where you want it to go at your will. More simply said, instead of reacting to what's happening around you and being a beat or two behind, you're more able to see what's happening versus your reaction to what's happening. That's where that decision-making and ability to be clear in high-stress moments comes into play. And for me, coming to flying, overcoming a fear of flying, I know that my meditation practice had a big part of me being able to push through that and pursue, this initial private pilot certificate, because I was able to see that what my mind was serving me up was not useful. It got me into a lot of trouble, but it was not useful.
Yeah, I think it sort of, from my experience, it sort of evens you out, right? Like,
yeah.
As pilots, we all know gyroscopes, right? They resist sort of that change, that movement, or, even the keel of a sailboat that holds the sailboat sort of upright even through all the waves. So as you are dealing with stressful moments, as you're going through training, or as you are dealing with maybe an emergency in flight or something, you're kind of getting knocked off, but then it returns to center and it gives you that moment of like, I'm going to analyze this before I react.
Absolutely.
And that's what I think I have liked about it, is it has helped me, especially as I've become more experienced, become a captain on an airplane, had in-flight issues, the ability to sit there and see something that maybe is a little scary or a little stressful and not react to it, but deal with it. I think that's what has helped.
Yes. And most Americans, we grossly generalizing here, but most of us find that level of concentration and focus that you're talking about with a specific project. So they'll find it in making a piece of art, in making music, in flying an airplane, in working on an engineering project. They'll find that sort of clarity of focus and really a meditation, but it's project based. And when we take that project away, people don't have that ability to direct their consciousness without that thing that they're working on. So that's why I love meditation, because you're working on the thing itself. You're working on the mind itself and your relationship to your mind. Then when you apply that sharp mind to the project, you're bringing in 10, 15, 20% more clarity. And that's really powerful. And also it gets you away from feeling like your worth is tied to the project you're doing or your sanity, right? I don't feel right unless I've practiced my clarinet today, or I talked to my personal trainer. She doesn't feel right until she's worked out in the day. We get kind of caught up in these external things as needing to help us focus our mind. But what if you didn't need any of that to focus your mind? If you could just sit with yourself and just do it free from anything else or anyone else, then you can go into any project, whether it's picking your kid up from school, dealing with an issue with the house, my gutters are a mess today, or whatever it is. You're coming at it with this clear, sharp mind. And what's so cool, what's so fascinating is now we have all this functional magnetic resonance imaging. So we can put people into an MRI machine, which is basically a big magnet, and it can tell us what areas of the brain are lighting up. So it can do that in a static way where we're just taking a shot of the brain, an image of the brain, or they can do it functionally where they put someone in, and as they are meditating, they observe the mind. And they've taken in expert meditators, so people who've done it 10 years or longer. And what these modern imaging strategies have found is that rather than these meditators having like this laser-like focus on one little spot and never deviating, what they have instead is a consistent ability to exit focusing on one thing, focus on another, and then come back to the original source of focus. They can switch tasks efficiently and almost seamlessly, and they can also drop into a meditative state extremely quickly. Think about the skill of being able to rapidly switch tasks with full concentration and focus in life. Like, that's the magic sauce that sometimes people say, like, meditation will change your life. Done over a long period of time, that's the skill that we develop. I know John just cringed, like, a long period of time. But that's what's really cool, that we have these brain images now. So before I get into talking about like the active state meditation we're going to get into today, let me just back out one little thing and say why else we care about this as pilots. We've just highlighted a bunch of them, but it's relatively low cost to learn how to meditate. Whether you get an app or you just listen to this free meditation I'm going to teach you, there's a ton of free stuff online. You can do it anywhere. It's portable. It's proven to enhance mental health, increase work productivity, increase your physical health, and increase your neuroplasticity. Like, we have all the scientific evidence. So like, why wouldn't we want to do this? So just to zoom out for a second, meditation has, thousands of years of history, particularly in more Eastern cultures. And then in the West, particularly in the United States, it got like really popular, like with a counterculture revolution. Like, a lot of my teachers were at Woodstock and like the whole hippie generation. They were all about expanding consciousness. They tried a lot of drugs to do that, but then found out there's a lot of side effects that were bad. They'd get high, but then they'd crash down low. And then meditation kind of came in as like, a way to expand this cultural consciousness. And in some ways, it got a little bit of a negative connotation because it was so associated with like drug culture and dropping out in quote unquote hippie culture. There has been a little bit of resistance to this from the scientific community initially to looking at it as a, valid source of basically increasing your intellect, your happiness, and your mental well-being. But as time went on, then we get to like the New Age period, which is in the 80s, which I got hooked up with it, where people started to do a few little studies, but they were mostly observational. But then cue the 1990s, when we got all this brain imaging stuff that came in. And then the scientists went like, we can actually study the brain and see what's happening. And of course, when they started to get all the results in that all the meditators for thousands of years had been telling people would happen, they started to see that shown again and again in these large scale studies. They went, aha, we have something here. And now you can find lots of peer-reviewed research, a lot of which I will link to today. So it has an extremely long history of not only human beings doing it, but also now we have some of the science behind it as well. So wherever you want to enter into that flow, it's a pretty groovy thing. So let's talk about active state meditation. There are so many different ways to meditate. I'm going to teach this one today. We're going to focus on it. I'll be doing probably 2 more episodes where we do the other 2 kinds. And of course, we'll have lots of other guests on teaching lots of other kinds too. So you guys can find what works for you. But let's just think about 2 main kinds just for our purpose of discussion today. We've got one that is more restorative and then one that's more activating. So the restorative one would be something that you would use prior to sleep or in place of a nap, or if you're, chronically sleep deprived, like you're flying to London every other week or every week back and forth. That, a lot of times that's called yoga nidra or like non-sleep sleep. They have all these fancy names for it, but it's basically inducing this place where you're neither asleep nor awake, but you're in that nice in-between state. And this reduces cortisol, which is a stress hormone. It increases dopamine, which helps with mood regulation and induces that just pleasurable, relaxed feeling. And we have this saying in my tradition that 15 minutes of this style of meditation is equal to 2 hours of deep sleep, is deeply restorative. And we have all the evidence now to back up what's happening biochemically. This type of restorative sleep, I think, is absolutely beneficial. And honestly, for pilots, it would be almost always the one that I would recommend. And we'll talk about why in a little bit. So we're going to do a future episode really diving into this restorative meditation. It's one of the main ways that I practice. I practice it every day. The other type of meditation is that activating focus meditation. So this is more about training your awareness and your perception. What we were talking about earlier, your ability to, like John said, in that emergency situation, switch quickly from task to task while maintaining that neutral awareness of how to handle the situation. So again, this is another like scientifically validated tool that enhances that neuroplasticity, which is the part of our brain that helps us learn, form memories, helps process difficult emotions, and can actually even help us heal from trauma. So what I find interesting about this activating focus meditation is we're training our awareness to be able to kind of work like a spotlight, or we can spotlight on a certain thing and keep it there. So you're training your perception from going from a reactive state to a proactive, deciding where your attention is going to go. What I find fascinating about this is when they put folks who do this activating focus meditation in that functional MRI, they see that, okay, while they're doing the meditation, their brains light up and there's stuff happening and they're calming down the part of their brain that's responsible for distraction and they're activating the part of their brain that's associated with focus. But when they look at those meditators when they're not meditating and they're at expert level, they see long-term changes to their neural pathways. So meditation not only changes your brain while you're doing it, it actually changes the structure of your brain, which means that when you're in that emergency situation, your default setting will be to be able to go to a neutral awareness rather than in a reactive state. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. Nice baseline.
Yeah, exactly. So here's the thing, and here's why I say that if I really had to pick one to teach to pilots, I would teach them this restorative meditation, which we're not doing today, but here's why. So some of the greatest benefit comes in meditation when we challenge our natural tendency. So let me give you my own personal example. In high school, I was very anxious, very driven, very perfectionistic, just way overworking, all the overdoing things you can imagine, right? So for me to only train that active focus, awareness, and perception, it's like stimulating a brain that's already stimulated and good at being stimulated, right? It's like just keeping it in that groove of driving. It feels good and you dig it because you're getting better. But when I discovered the restorative meditation, not only was it hard to do because I didn't want to rest, but I found tremendous benefit. It was like the benefit that I got from it was double. And now we know that I was challenging my brain to increase its neuroplasticity. So I was forcing my brain to make new synapses, making new connections, and especially in response to learning or new experiences, it was forcing my brain to develop new pathways more quickly. And so it was changing my focus from focusing on the outside world and learning how to focus on the inside world, and in that way bringing balance to my neurobiology. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And, I know that one of the things they talk about on the Calm app a lot and forgive me for mentioning that. No, they're not sponsoring us. It's just the only experience that I have with any of this. One of the instructors on there always talks about the fact that, like, a lot of people have this expectation that when you do it, you're supposed to have a completely clear mind. And if you are unable to clear your mind, then people feel like they're failing at it or they're not good.
Right.
And I'll admit that's been one of the struggles for me. Not so much that I don't understand what they're saying or appreciate that, but like it is really hard to clear your mind. They'll tell you like, okay, as you're getting started, focus on the tip of your nose.
Yeah.
And I'll do that for about 30 seconds to a minute and then be like, I wonder what I'm going to eat for dinner. What am I going to do with this? And then you get wrapped up in your own thoughts. And then a couple minutes later, you're like, well, was this whole thing kind of a wash? Did I actually not accomplish anything because I've been just thinking about all these things? So it's, I think that that's one of the very difficult parts for people, myself included, is just if you can't establish that baseline from the beginning, are you not moving forward? And then that's when people get frustrated. So that's why I'm so glad you asked that. It's a fantastic observation too. And if it helps you at all, John, I've been meditating 30 years. This morning, my whole meditation was literally, I don't think I had one moment where my mind was just focusing. At my point of meditation, I do mantra meditation. So I repeat this mantra over and over again, which is just a Sanskrit phrase that is promoting a peaceful state. So I'm repeating this over and over, but my mind was like, you got this thing with John, and the gutters are all messed up. And what are you going to do about this? And you haven't unpacked yet. And you got constantly. The difference is though, like I know that's what my mind does. I know that that's just the nature of the mind is to do that. And so every time it does that, I bring it back to the point of awareness and I go, win. I actually put that in the win column because that means that each time that I brought my mind back, I'm challenging my brain to be have more synapses connecting, be more neuroplastic. It's actually a win. It's a good thing, especially if you're doing a meditation. Like you're a highly accomplished, focused person who likes to be doing things. I think if I know you well enough, I can say that. Okay, he's nodding. Okay, cool. So like you're doing something, you're asking your brain to do something that's the opposite, which is hold soft focus on just one thing and not move the body and not plan for the future and not analyze what's happening. You're really challenging your brain in a huge way. Like it's a good thing that it feels like kind of, I can almost feel it in my body. It feels like cringy, like you want to fight against it, like you feel every little itch and you just want to move, you want to do anything but. That's actually a sign that it's working and that you're challenging yourself. If it was super easy and you said, I sit down and I go, boop, and I focus on, let's say you're doing a breath awareness. I start focusing on my breath and I'm just there, man. I'm just one with the breath and it's so awesome. I'd be like, either you're like enlightened and that's cool, in which case you wouldn't even be meditating anymore because you don't need it. You're there all the time. You're in that cool awakened state, or you're not challenging yourself enough. So the challenge, it's a sign that it's working, and it's a sign that you're choosing a meditation that's forcing yourself to grow and develop. And that's what you want. You don't want the easy one.
The easy way is hard enough, but if you do that, you're just going to be strengthening a tendency you already have. And actually, you're trying to foster the other thing, looking for that balance. So you're normal. It's like all of us. You're normal.
The easy way is hard enough. I like that.
Yeah, I have take no credit for that. It's a saying from Yogaville, which is informal name of the ashram where I do all of my training. And I learned it there, and I remind myself of that all the time because, boy, we like to complicate things. So to wrap up this little piece, just think about a meditation that's going to work kind of against your natural tendency and pick that one and be aware it's going to be a struggle, and that's a good thing. It's just like if you went and worked out at the gym, if you're lifting these little teeny puny weights, 2-pounders, you would not grow a muscle, right? But if you're trying to grow and develop muscle, you go when you're ready, your joints and tendons are ready, you go for a heavier weight, right? You go for some stress. You want to stress the body out so it makes an adaptation and response and grows cool looking muscles and functional muscles too. So you have to actually stress yourself out a little bit. It's a good thing. Who knew? Gita just said meditation should be very stressful and create nothing but disturbance. No, it's an appropriate amount of stress, right? So let's talk about those stumbling blocks, man. The resistance is real. I think you'll like this quote, John. It speaks to what you're just saying. Do you know Stephen Pressfield? He's written a bunch of books. Okay. So he's written a lot of like really, really famous like novels, none of which I can remember the name of. So that's proof that my neuroplasticity is shot. But he's got this great book called The War of Art. And he's talking about all the ways that artists get in their own way. He's got this great quote. Are you paralyzed with fear? That's a good sign. Fear is good. Like self-doubt, fear is an indicator. Fear tells us what we have to do. Remember one rule of thumb. The more scared we are of a work or calling, the more sure we can be that we have to do it. To me, this speaks to so much of my own resistance to meditation and my own students' resistance to meditation. There's like they do some of it and they hit this point where they find any excuse or reason to not do it anymore. This is sort of like tough love here, right? But they'll tell me any number of different reasons we're going to go through. I don't know how to do it. I'm not sure if it conflicts with my religion. I don't like the idea of surrendering to something. I don't have time. Just excuse. To which I always say, when you have that resistance to doing something, that's an indicator that something is being asked to grow or like pushed through or kind of leaned against, so you can figure out what it is that you're avoiding so you can confront it and move through it. Because if you don't and you just keep avoiding it, whatever you're avoiding just festers like a wound. That's a really gross analogy, but it does. It just kind of grows and grows until eventually it will knock you upside the head with like some kind of crisis or breakdown, maybe even minor, just erupting at a loved one, right? Having like a little emotional outburst. In some way, it will keep getting your attention. So I find it easier just to sit down and be at peace with myself and all of my instability for 10 to 15 minutes every morning, rather than spending all of my energy avoiding it. The more important something is, the more it will make you uncomfortable while you're doing it. Just like flight training, right? Like you go to that new type rating and it's like, chose to do it, but at the same time, you're like freaking out and nervous and scared. This is the same exact thing. All right, let's talk about this whole time thing, Mr. I don't have 10 minutes. So Gandhi's got this great quote. I have been trying to find when and where he said this, but here's the quote. Gandhi once said, I have so much to accomplish today that I must meditate for 2 hours instead of 1. Sometimes what people say is like, you should meditate for an hour every day. Unless you're really busy, then you should meditate for 2. So, and that's kind of like that, you see it on a poster, you go, oh, that's cute. Okay, what does that mean? It reminds me of Jerry Seinfeld. Did you know that he practices transcendental meditation? And has done.
Actually, I did know that.
Cool. For decades. And he said that for decades, while they were recording Seinfeld on lunch, he would meditate. I think it was for 20 minutes, maybe 30. But while everyone else was eating lunch, he would do this meditation. And he'd find then he could make it through the rest of the day with all of his responsibilities as like producer, director, show writer, actor. And he was really making it through. And then after a period of time, he figured out like, oh, I could meditate in the morning. And that could be a thing. He started meditating in the morning and he found that, man, that usual energy dip I have at 2:00 doesn't happen anymore. He's like, I go all day long and I just feel good from that 20-minute investment in the morning. So all of this is just sort of pointing at that, like, for myself and for all the students I've taught over the years, once they get over the time resistance, every single person has said the same thing. I end up with more time in the bank than it took me to meditate. Like it gives me hours back. I have one gentleman that I've worked with for years and he owns his own business now. He's got 2 kids and busy. busy guy, And he's like, if I meditate for 15 minutes in the morning, it gives me 2 hours of productivity later. And I'm like, how does this work? It's amazing. We have all the brain research, but anytime your mind throws up that resistance, I don't have time, you can say to your resistance, I don't have time not to do this because it's going to give me back productivity later. It's tough. It's tough. Any thoughts about the whole I don't have time thing? I have specific strategies in a little bit. I just want to kind of go over each resistance.
I think it's a good excuse for being lazy is really what it amounts to.
I love how you just cut through. I say all this nonsense and you just go boom with the mic drop quote. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, I could spend 15 minutes doing that, knowing all the benefits, or I can go eat breakfast right now. It's like so many things, whether it's exercising or practicing for whatever skill you have or whatever. It's, I didn't get to it. And the easy excuse is not enough time, but really I just didn't want to. I didn't feel like it. I was lazy.
Yep. There's a notion of surrender that comes with meditation because we are surrendering a little bit when we sit down and intentionally align our body, focus on our breath. We are surrendering in a way, like we're kind of giving up all of the busyness and the things that define us, right? There is an element, and that's scary. And I see people fighting against that a lot, especially in Western culture. We don't want to give up control. But one of my dear yoga colleagues, Zach, said once, he said, how many times a day do we surrender to things that aren't good for us? He's like, we surrender to having that third cup of coffee or gossiping, or we surrender to checking the social media app for the 5th time that hour, or we surrender to refreshing our email. He's like, but what if we asked ourselves to surrender to that higher part of ourselves that has our best interest at heart? What if instead we surrendered to that, to our sort of greater good? I was like, wow, that's a cool way to put it, because I will sit there and sometimes be like, I don't have time this morning to meditate. I'll be like, Geeta, you're going to spend 10 minutes making a pour over coffee downstairs. You're going to do that. And that takes 10 minutes. It's slow, pour over coffee. But you're not going to sit here and meditate. And each time I go, ooh, caught it. That's a win. So yeah, time. One of my favorite students has 6 kids. One of them has special needs. Single mom. She meditates every day. I don't know how she does it, but she makes the time. Right? She makes the time. What are other resistances to meditation? Kind of just not knowing how. Like you said, you do it for a little while and then you're like, this and that came up and I don't know. And it just feels too cringy and insecure and I don't know. And when you hit that I don't know space, this is where I say if the app isn't working for you at that point, maybe find a teacher or a class or kind of dive or get a book and dive a little deeper. For me, I did tapes for years because that's all I had. But when I had an opportunity to even go on a weekend retreat where we just did meditation, it was 2 days. It seemed like a big deal of time, but in the course of my life, 2 days was not that long. But being in a room with other people who are meditating and hearing people speak about it, I was like, it's normal to feel distracted and all over the place and uncomfortable sitting. And this is what everyone deals with. And it's just like training or studying with a group of pilots. You're like, this is all normal. This is what everyone struggles with. And having the teacher guide you can really make it much easier. And again, the easy way is hard enough. So I'd say use the apps. Insight Timer is a great one. Headspace is a great one. Calm, that John has mentioned, is a great one. There's one called Waking Up that I've been hearing great things about that I haven't used. I'll link all of these in the show notes. Use those apps. But if you hit that point where you're like, am I doing this right? Is it working? What is going on? Find a teacher that you can talk to because there's people who teach meditation all over the place. And now with the internet, you can do an online course really, really easily. Having a teacher will help advance you. It's kind of like the difference between learning how to play piano from YouTube. It'll only get you so far. At some point, then you go to a piano teacher and they're like, try this and this and that. And boom, your progress just clicks forward much faster. So those are some pretty common stumbling blocks, but let's talk about how to actually be successful at it. And really just want to kind of drill down for a minute here, more than a minute, come on, it's me, about setting up for success and just really thinking about being more intentional about how to set up a meditation practice that sticks. Then after that, I'll go through just the outline and what happens in each little section of the meditation practice, and then we'll do it. That's it. So the main thing, remember that quote, the easy way is hard enough? When I went to the ashram for, I think it was the level 1 training that I did. Yes. So I lived there for about a month and did this basic level training. And it's pretty cool at an ashram because everyone gets up in the morning and guess what they do? They meditate. And then they do yoga. And then you have your morning classes. And then at noon, the bell rings and everybody at the ashram stops what they're doing and you meditate. And then at 5:00, there's another meditation. You don't have to go to any of these. They're just optional, but most people end up going because it's pretty nice and peaceful. So I do this whole month of, meditating 3 times a day. In between, we're doing yoga, we're chanting, we're doing all the things, just the whole thing. So in the last week, I take a walk with Swami Vidyananda, who is their lead trainer for yoga therapy and also for yoga and stress reduction. So he teaches, business folks, how to meditate, how to relax, how to maintain their life without stressing. So I'm like, Swami, how am I going to do this back at home? Because I'm going to leave here and then I'm going back to being a householder again. And life there is not set up to do all of this. She's like, all right, well, what can you do for a yoga practice every day in meditation? So I list out my grand plan of what I'm going to do. And she goes, okay, now cut that in half. So I cut it in half and I tell her my plan. Okay, I'm going to do this posture and that posture. I'm going to do this. I'm going to meditate this breathing. And we keep walking. I remember we're walking down this long straight road in Virginia. We keep walking. She's quiet. The gravel's just crunching. She's like, all right, cut that in half again. So I'm like, okay. So I cut it in half again. Then I tell her again, I'm still on like 5 postures and 5 minutes of this and 10 minutes of that. She keeps doing that until we had gotten down to had 2 yoga poses and 2 minutes of meditation. And she goes, okay, you can do all of that in under 5 minutes, right? I'm like, oh yeah. She said, that's your practice. From now until the day you die, that is your daily minimum. It will happen no matter what. Even if you're about to get in bed at night and you go, oh my gosh, I forgot to do those 2 poses in that 2 minutes of meditation. She's like, just right there in bed. Just do your spinal twist, do your forward bend, sit there and meditate for 2 minutes, and then you've done it. And I'm looking at her, I'm like, that's not enough. 5 minutes a day? Are you nuts? I've been here at an ashram, 24/7 yoga. And she's like, here is why it will work. That 5 minutes will feel good. And that 5 minutes will be doable, whether you have the flu, whether you broke your arm, whether your husband is sick, whether you had a fight with someone, whether it was a good day, bad day, you'll be able to do it. And it will feel so good that over time, when you have time on days, you'll add a little bit more. And then on days when you're like just wiped, at least you'll do that much. And you will create this traction in your life where it just becomes a rhythm and it becomes part of your life. And over time, it will naturally become easier to add more. And that 5-minute minimum will become 10-minute minimum. And gradually over the years, it will grow and grow and grow. But no matter what, you know that you can always fall back on that 5 minutes. And in that way, each day, it's like building strength over time. You're building a muscle memory. You're building your mental muscle. You're building your neuroplasticity. And you're building all of that in such a natural, organic way that it's just part of your life. And she was totally right. It's been 20 plus years since that day. And that's what I've stuck to. And it took all that pressure off, like kind of you were saying of like, I'm back home and it's different. Because I have such a small, it's 4 minutes and 30 seconds, my daily minimum. I've kept that consistent. I can do it. And then on days when I have more time, I want to sit in the moonlight on the full moon and do a full thing. Cool, get my yogi on. But it's created, and that's really what creates neuroplasticity and the ability to focus. So 5 minutes a day. Does that sound like it would actually really work? Or do you think it's just BS?
I don't think it's BS. I don't know if I necessarily have the experience to know one way or the other, but I'm inclined to believe you, I suppose.
I know there's people out there going, 5 minutes a day isn't going to do anything. But there's one way to find out. Start doing it and see what happens.
Well, and part of the reason why this whole thing exists in the first place, steering things back to pilots and why would we do this? I mean, when you're thinking of performance, when you're thinking of where's your brain at and your mental activity at, like if you can compartmentalize and stabilize just a little bit, think of the performance increase that you'll get on the back end of that. So,
absolutely,
again, whether I believe it or not, the pilot performance inclined person inside of me goes, well, why not? Why wouldn't, to be a little bit better, to be a little bit safer, to be, a little bit more prepared to learn something or retain something new. There's the benefit outweighs however woo-woo it might sound.
Yeah. And 5 minutes a day is just a baseline. That's just like I would call it like the minimum daily. You set that and it could be 2 minutes. It doesn't have to be 5. Start with something. Again, the easy way is hard enough. Start with something that you know you can do no matter what. Part of the resistance will tell you it's not enough. And then you'll want to do 15 minutes every day. And then that first time you can't do that 15 minutes, you go, oh, couldn't do it, whatever. And then you walk away and you leave. The students I have who really have dialed in over the last 20 years and said, all right, I'll try it. I'm going to do 2 minutes every day. I check in with them a decade later. They're like, of course I'm still going. I'm like, why wouldn't I? Because they've set something realistic for themselves. So set a realistic goal for yourself to start out and give yourself like a good, say, 8 weeks. I'm going to do this however many minutes a day you pick for yourself. And then track it for a month. Just did you do it or not? It can just be an X on a calendar. Did it or didn't do it? So you're actually tracking, are you doing what you're thinking you're going to do? That helps a lot. Other little ways to set up for success. Some people really like to pick a time of day that works for them. That depends on your schedule though. In your life, right? Most people that first thing in the morning is the way to go. And on days for me where I know I'm really busy, or if I make a move in bed and my dog hears me, he's going to start whining. I like do the stealthy sit up in bed and I just sit there and I do my bare minimum. You have to find a way that's going to work for you. Some people do it right before bed. I find it impossible because I'm too tired to concentrate then. Find a time of day or a trigger for you that's going to trigger when you're going to do it. For each person, that's going to be different, especially for pilots. One last little thing before we get to the outline, and then we do it. Find a method that works for you. I'm going to teach you this one today, which is a little bit more like active focus. In a future episode, we're going to do that relaxing one. I'm going to bring in a gentleman named Avi, who's going to teach us another form of meditation. There's visualization. I'm also going to teach a standing meditation class in a future episode, which is great. Standing meditation is great for people who feel like they can't sit and meditate. It's really fun. It's rooted in the Taoist tradition. It's really great. So there's a flavor for everybody. If you don't like what I'm about to lead you through today, see if it's just the resistance, see if there's a way to sit with that and be curious about that, but also try all these other ways that we're going to offer in this course and other ones and find something that feels good, that you enjoy so that you can keep doing it. All right, let's go through the outline of like a meditation practice and then we'll actually do that outline. I think maybe John will throw this outline too in the show notes because I know some people are more visual learners. And I know when I was learning to do like a longer meditation, having the steps like written out, I would just sit there in the morning and be like, oh, breathe. Right. And then I would do that for so many minutes. And then I look back down at the schedule and be like, oh, next I do this thing. My brain really likes that kind of knowing what I'm doing now and what's coming next. So I'll throw up this outline in the show notes so you guys can see it. Most meditation practices follow the same thing though. Establishing the seat, right? You want to get comfortable with how you're sitting. Did you sit on the floor when you meditated or stand or lay down?
Usually I was one of the weird ones. I was a before bed. It wasn't.
Oh yeah, see,
every now and again it was in the morning, but most often it was before bed. And so
you're more of a night owl, right?
What?
You're more of a night owl, so that makes sense.
Yeah, so it would be generally in bed or sitting in a chair.
Cool. I love that because so many people think, well, I have to sit on the floor. No, you just want to sit so you're comfortable. There's reasons why we sit on the floor, which probably really doesn't apply too much to the pilot population. If someone wants to really get into that, I can, but you just want to sit in a way that's comfortable. And then that's step one. Step two is we kind of just set an intention. So you kind of know, why am I meditating today? It's just a little phrase that you say. You can make it be whatever you want it to be. Today we're going to choose, may I be calm and clear. Very simple, but you're giving your brain a direction. Then you do some breathing because breathing helps to slow the mind, helps to slow the body. And there's a little pause there. You just kind of go like, okay, I'm settled in. And then you move into like your actual meditation, which is focusing the mind on your desired object. Do that for a while. Then you just kind of sit there for a moment, just noticing what happened after all that. And then you just do a little closing. May I bring this calmness and clarity into my day? And then you're done. All this will be written out, so you'll see it. We'll do it in a minute. But why this matters is having a outline will help your brain within the challenges and the resistance to doing the meditation. The outline is there because it has very specific effects on your nervous system. So as John said earlier, it's not about focusing, it's about refocusing. Every time your mind wanders and you bring it back, that is the practice of meditation. Formally, within yoga tradition, we actually call that concentration. And in most yoga traditions, concentration comes before meditation. Meditation was when you're completely absorbed in the object you're focusing on. There's nothing else, right? Everything is still. But even the great yogi said, before you can even do that, you got to work on your concentration. So even they knew, like these guys who just did this for full self-actualization purposes were like, yeah, before meditation, you got to work on your concentration. It's not about focus. It's about refocusing. Being distracted is the practice. It's very liberating because every time we feel like we've failed because we've thought about something else, it's a moment of success because you're watching and observing how the mind works and you're bringing it back to where you want it to be. Other little tips is that when we're doing the breathing practice, this has a specific action on your nervous system. So all the time you're breathing in life, it just happens. It's part of your autonomic nervous system. But when we do intentional, slow, relaxed breathing, it activates a vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is the 10th cranial nerve, and it originates in your brainstem. It goes within the medulla oblongata and extends downward through your neck into your chest and actually into your belly, and it branches out into multiple organs. The spleen, the stomach, the intestines, the kidneys. It helps regulate blood pressure, the immune system, respiration rate. It is intimately connected to the mind and the breath. And one way that we can activate this vagus nerve is by slow, deep diaphragmatic breathing, which just means like your belly moves in and out when you breathe. And when you stimulate that vagus nerve, it helps to turn on that part of your nervous system that we label the parasympathetic nervous system. And that parasympathetic nervous system is the part that helps you feel relaxed yet alert and helps you move into a more restful state without actually falling asleep. It's the opposite of the fight or flight, where you're totally overstimulated and like really in panic mode. So this thing of like sitting and getting your seat comfortable kind of puts the brakes on the mind through the body. Then the breath through that vagus nerve helps the brain to calm without even needing to think differently. Think about how useful this is for a pilot to be able to regulate your nervous system. Then once you've done that, then you can bring the spotlight of your awareness where you want it to go. Today, we're just going to use a breath awareness because it's very neutral and is accessible for all of us. Then you can direct your mind with more ease where you want it to be. And it's usually easier to meditate for a little longer if you've organized the body and the breath first. Then you can really work that neuroplasticity of bringing the mind back. Just call it like a refocusing practice. Let's just call it that. It's not even a focusing practice. It's a refocusing because the mind will do what it does. Before enlightenment, carry wood, chop water. After enlightenment, carry wood, chop water. You have to keep doing the same thing over and over again, no matter how far evolved you are. And then you just sit for a moment and observe all of it and close. All of these things are inherently regulating to your nervous system and train you to be able to move in and out of that state as you want. Last point, and then we'll practice. When you do this, putting the brakes on the body by finding just a comfortable seat, and then you breathe, and then you bring your focus of awareness to that one point. I think you said it was like on the tip of your nose. Today, we're going to do the breath moving in and out. Stuff will bubble up precisely because you have focused the perceptual spotlight of your brain to the thinking part of your brain. Everything in that thinking part of your brain, your prefrontal cortex that you haven't yet processed through, will come bubbling up because it's going, oh, now I have a chance to get processed. Every thought, sometimes stuff comes up that like someone said something mean to me like 3 days ago that I thought I didn't care about. Boom, it'll pop right up in meditation. I'll be like, oh, guess I was still carrying around that little trauma. It will all pop up precisely because you're directing the spotlight of your awareness on your own consciousness. It's natural and it's normal. So that's all just part of the experience, and it's literally how your brain functions, and it's supposed to happen. It's not, people say, I think too much when I start to meditate, or my mind is too busy, I can't meditate. It's not that you've suddenly created more thoughts. It's just that the spotlight of your awareness is now paying attention to only those thoughts. So it seems relatively like more. They're happening all the time, but you're training your ability to observe those actually happening rather than ignoring them. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's kind of cool how all this stuff works. This is a really cool thing that we're practicing today, which is, I think it's called interoception. We have that ability, proprioception, to know where our body is in space. Proception, I might be saying it wrong, where we're always sensing the outside world. And our brains have the ability to do interoception, which is interpret and sense the inner landscape of the body. And that's one that I think pilots, to balance the efforts that we do of being always out in the world, come inside as well, so that we're seeing things more clearly. Then when we re-engage with the cockpit, we're doing so with a mind that has been trained to focus according to what we want it to focus on.
I appreciate the idea that the silence is what allows those thoughts to bubble up.
Yeah.
The explanation that that's what allows it to happen. I think it just gives you that perception of what to do.
Yeah, that's just normal. And you watch the thought and comes in. Maybe it sticks around, maybe it goes, but you're like, okay, there's a thought. Like, That's all it is.
So let's go right into it.
This is going to be one designed to help you activate your focus, really training awareness and perception, giving you the ability to choose your point of awareness. So just follow along. First things first, let's establish a comfortable seat. You can even lie down and do this if you prefer. You can sit in a chair, sit up in bed, however that's going to look for you. And take a moment to really settle in. Sometimes some shoulder rolls feel nice. You can do a little turn to one side and twist to the other side, nodding the head yes and no, or shaking the head side to side, and just giving the body some cues to start to release any stress and tension. If you are sitting in a chair and your feet are on the floor, have the feet about hip width apart and make sure the feet are evenly balanced. And it can be nice to rock the feet back and forth a little bit. You have 27,000 nerve endings in the body, a lot of them in the hands and the feet. So having them set up already starts to cue the nervous system that it is time to train the awareness, but in a relaxed way. And along with the feet releasing into the floor, let your hands find a position in the lap that feels nice. They can be palms down on the lap. You can place them palms up. Just experiment and see what feels good. Some people like to interlace the fingers like a little basket and have that sitting in the lap. Just find an intentional position for the hands. Let the feet release a little more. Let any tension in the hips start to release. Bring your awareness along the spine, from the base of the spine all the way up through the neck, up to the top of the head, just feeling that the spine can lengthen. The shoulders can release. And even a sense of the top of the head, both releasing and just subtly rising up a little bit. And as you continue settling in and establishing your seat for your meditation today, have a little check and see if there's anywhere holding any extra tension that can just be encouraged to release. Maybe the jaw, the eyes, the tongue. And gently setting aside anything that's happened before this moment and allowing anything that's going to come in the future to wait there. Taking one more moment in time here to make any last adjustments to your seated or laying down position so you feel very comfortable and full of ease. And now let your mind set a firm resolve for the rest of your practice. This can be personal, or you can simply say something to yourself like, "May I be calm and clear." Make this intention firm and solid so that it can direct your mind for the rest of the meditation. Then, to help us further set aside the busyness of everyday life, let's gently allow the breath to help us do this. So wherever your breathing pattern is now, just slowly allow the breath to lengthen and to deepen in whatever way feels good to you. Starting to let the breath slow down, but very gently, and finding your own pace. No high set of expectations here to breathe very deeply. Simply allowing the breath to be deeper and slower. as the breath slowly deepens, either gently let the eyes close or let the eyes focus on a spot either on the floor or towards the knees, drawing the awareness of the eyes inward and letting it now guide the breath even slower. Slowly moving the breath towards a count of inhaling for 4, holding the breath for a count of 7, and exhaling for 8. I'll count this out a few times, but you follow whatever speed or pace of counting suits you. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, holding 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Continuing on, inhale 4, hold for 7, and out for 8. If at any time the breath feels rushed or pinched, find a pace of breathing that feels more suitable for you. Always adjust and accommodate. Inhaling for 4, holding 7, and a long, slow exhale for 8. Releasing any tension in the jaw and the forehead and the eyes. Few more moments in time here to slowly breathe in and out. And after your last exhale, just take a gentle breath in through the nose and then softly sigh the breath out through the mouth, signaling that you're ending that breathing. And just for a moment in time, let the breath resume its natural pace. And just for a moment, direct your awareness to notice the stillness of the body. Just noticing the body sitting quietly. And now, using this spotlight of your awareness, bring it to the breath as it flows in and out. Choosing a point of awareness that feels nice for you. It could be the breath flowing in through the nose and out through the nose. The subtle warmth of the breath in and out. It may be the rise and fall of the chest as you inhale and exhale. Whatever feels easiest for you to just follow the natural flow of breath in and out. Watching the breath with a neutral curiosity. Thoughts will come and go. You can simply note the thought. Notice if you're thinking, judging, worrying, and kind of just gently label each thought and then bring the mind back to the breath. Staying with the breath flowing in and out, watching the breath flow in and out. Training the mind to refocus each time it wanders. No high set of expectations here. It's enough to sit, to watch the breath, notice the thoughts, and then come back to the breath. Just simply sitting and noticing. We'll enjoy one more quiet minute now on your own to practice refocusing your mind, following your natural breath in and out. And now slowly, allowing that spotlight of your awareness to become very broad and diffuse. Simply sitting now, neither focused nor unfocused, just sitting. And now allowing that spotlight of awareness to come back to your intention. Bringing that intention with you as a bridge between meditation and the rest of your day. May I bring this clarity and calm presence into my day. And slowly reawaken the sense of the body wiggling the fingers and toes, legs and arms. If you like, you can open your eyes and move on with your day, or continuing to sit in quiet contemplation. May this great practice of meditation bring you happiness, inner wisdom, and peace.
That was really great. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. Just a little, I call that like a sip, but it's just as good as a sip of coffee in the morning, or just, it's like that, ooh, that's nice. I love ones like that in the middle of a busy day when I'm like, and just, whoa. Stop. And I go back into things. I'm like, oh, none of that was as hard as I was thinking it was going to be. Any observations or questions?
It's funny. little bit of behind the curtain here. So just before that meditation, I received some complicated news from work in terms of, how things are going with a future trip that, won't get into details, but stressful. And what are we going to do? And all of these like plan B, plan C, plan D. And so it was serendipitous to follow that up with a practice like that, because it definitely did sort of, provide a practical effect of what happens when your mind's racing and you're trying to do this. Mm-hmm. It took me out of it for a little while, so that was kind of nice.
Nice. Yeah, the stuff of life keeps going no matter what. There'll always be a challenge or the next thing to throw us off. So I found that if I don't take responsibility for actually slowing myself down, that life will always carry me outward and not always in directions that I want to go. So meditation helps me bring that center of control. I don't like that word control. Brings the sense of management back to myself again. And that feels enormously like relaxing and empowering, because the life stuff hasn't changed at all, but I've changed. And then that lets me know in those stressful moments when I feel like I don't have a choice, that some part of my brain has practiced, wait, I do have a choice. I can respond completely differently in this moment. And that's real freedom. And I think leads to, hopefully, safer, more proficient, and more joyful flight operations for anyone who practices it. That's why I like to share it, because I think that we deserve to feel good and perform our best at the same time. They don't have to be mutually exclusive. And who knows, maybe some like good mojo from that meditation will like magically resolve the work issues and like you'll get everything you want out of this trip. No, it doesn't work like that. But you will hopefully know how to turn a challenging experience into something actually really positive, instead of getting stuck in like, oh, I'm not getting what I wanted. Maybe it's like, but what could I get from this instead? Maybe there's something even cooler that I hadn't even thought of. For me, it breaks up that log jam in the mind. So what is it? Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional.
So I guess to summarize all of this and put a bow on it for our pilot friends out there listening, this is just, as you said, kind of a dip in the toe of what you might experience and what you might be getting into if you decide to pick up a practice like this. And as we've said from the very beginning of the year at episode 1, why not give it a try and see what kind of benefits? You really don't have anything to lose but maybe 5 minutes for a few days in a row. And that really in the grand scheme of things isn't much. So the performance benefits, the health benefits, the mindfulness benefits, I think far outweigh 5 minutes or 10 minutes a day, depending on what you decide to do. I think this is the first of many, and certainly I appreciate you sharing your expertise with us. Any final thoughts from you?
My final thoughts are, remember, the easy way is hard enough. Every time your mind resists meditation, that is a cue that it might be something worth exploring, because it's your resistance saying, oh, I'm afraid to do that. It's just like being afraid to get the new type rating or the new job or the fall in love. Any of those moments, right on the other side of that resistance is everything that you deserve to have, which is happiness, health, inner wisdom, and peace. It really is possible. It's your birthright, but you have to apply yourself a little bit to have that. So more to come. I look forward to leading the really relaxing ones and the standing one. I'll be interested to see what people think and what they find is like kind of their groove. And like I said, we'll bring on other experts as well to teach their varieties of meditation, because you may not dig how I led it, but Avi might lead it a certain way. And you go, oh, I really dug that. And your mint chocolate chip ice cream, whichever kind you like, and then eat that and really get into it. And the benefits will be yours. And please, if you have experience with meditation or any comments, questions, concerns, like email me, calmcockpit@gmail.com. Let me know what you're thinking, especially what you're struggling with, because will cue us for future episodes. Give us some good ideas for that. What else can people do to help us? John, they can do things to support us.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, if you liked that guided meditation, it will be listed as a bonus episode after this one. So if you want to listen to it more than once and don't want to have to listen to an entire episode to get there, feel free to find that listed in all of our episodes. Beyond that, while you're doing it, if you could be so kind to give us a 5-star review, that helps with the algorithms and all of the fun things. Maybe even give us a few kind words in the various podcast worlds, whether it be Apple Podcasts or Spotify, Amazon, any of the places you can find us. And as Geeta said, if you have any thoughts or comments, interest in joining the show for an episode, feel free to email us at calmcockpit@gmail.com. And with all of that said, fly smarter
and stress less.
Boston Tower 1 departure is Airbus 321. Traffic holding crossing runway 33 left 3 lane.